Let's kick it.
While the stock market hits record highs and AI forecasts a utopian future, the metrics of everyday life, housing, food, and debt, signal a quiet, slow-motion recession for the average American. The disconnect is visible. A blue line shows the S&P 500 climbing steadily, while the red line reveals real U.S. GDP growth plummeted to 0.7%. Americans bridge this gap with debt. This rising red area represents $1.28 trillion borrowed for baseline essentials. With interest rates on those cards now climbing past 20%, borrowing has lost its utility as a tool for opportunity. It has become an expensive, mandatory tax on stability for those whose wages no longer cover their survival. Vanguard data confirms the severity of this pressure, showing a significant spike in early 401k hardship withdrawals. Families are actively cannibalizing their future retirement security to pay for the present. This wealth extraction from the bottom 90% serves as the primary fuel for the record-breaking success seen at the top tier of the market. This dynamic was institutionalized during the 2008 financial crisis. By bailing out the very firms that caused the collapse, the government taught the elite that failure carries no risk, provided you are large enough to socialize the losses. In this risk-free environment, the incentive shifted away from long-term stability and toward the immediate maximization of shareholder returns, directly at the workforce's expense. Market concentration has reached historic levels. As shown in this diagram, just 7 tech companies, including Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Google, accounted for roughly half of all recent gains in the entire S&P 500. These gains are driven by a massive AI hype cycle. OpenAI and Anthropic have reached a combined valuation of $2 trillion, despite lacking profitability and facing severe, unaddressed energy infrastructure bottlenecks. The actual utility of these tools remains limited. The Remote Labor Index shows AI can currently automate only about 4% of human work, suggesting that recent AI layoffs are primarily a signaling tool used to inflate stock prices for investors. Massive investments in AI represent a profitable bet on the future threat of labor displacement, allowing billionaires to inflate asset valuations today on the promise of eliminating human costs tomorrow. Even as consumer purchasing power reaches a breaking point, the system has developed new methods to harvest the remaining wealth of the middle class. FTC findings reveal that major retailers are using surveillance pricing, a system that harvests your location, browsing habits, and parental status to set an individualized price for the same product. This analysis compared identical grocery orders placed on Instacart at the same time. Because of data-driven price tailoring, 75% of the products showed different prices, with some customers paying a 23% markup for the exact same basket. This invisible price gouging costs a typical family over $1,200 extra per year, deepening their reliance on the high-interest credit card debt that now anchors the economy. Modern profitability relies on the precise, data-driven extraction of consumers who no longer have the leverage to opt out of the system. The profit motive now extends to the monetization of geopolitical instability and the literal threat of global war. The CFTC is currently investigating a series of highly suspicious trades. In one instance, a $580 million bet on falling oil prices was executed just 16 minutes before a strike delay on Iranian energy infrastructure was announced. The pattern is consistent across the timeline. $950 million moved before a ceasefire, $760 million before a Strait of Hormuz announcement, and $430 million just 15 minutes before another ceasefire extension. These are high-stakes gambles on human survival. A crisis in the Strait of Hormuz would cause nitrogen fertilizer costs to spike, triggering a lag effect in global grain markets that leads to mass food shortages within months. Within this framework, the destruction of civilizations and the risk of famine are reduced to questions of market positioning for financial insiders. The economy has avoided a traditional collapse because the definition of growth has been rewritten to exclude the majority of the population. As this scale shows, the top 10% of Americans now control over 50% of all consumer purchasing power. Industries are now structurally incentivized to serve only this narrow group, leaving the bottom 90% economically irrelevant. This loss of economic relevance leads directly to a loss of autonomy. When individuals are isolated and dependent on algorithmic systems for their survival, they lose the power to resist data extraction or wage suppression. Collective physical reconnection is the only remaining leverage against a system that relies on our social fragmentation to maintain control. Rebuilding tangible, local networks of mutual support creates a physical buffer against an economy that views citizens only as data points to be harvested. Restoring these communities provides the autonomy and power needed to survive a system built on engineered decay.
Let's kick it.